What's the craziest butterfly effect that happened to you because of a small decision you made? I had to call my heart surgeon to give him my new insurance numbers. I'd only just gotten them because the person who had them had the flu and was not getting back to me. As soon as I got my numbers, I called surgeon. The receptionist said, "Oh, hey, we just had a cancellation for this Friday. Do you want it?" Of course I wanted to get it over with and not wait another month. I decided to take the open heart surgery cancellation appointment a month before my actual appointment. And well, the surgeon said that thank goodness I did, because once he got a look inside, he realized I would not have survived to the original appointment date. So if the insurance lady didn't have the flu, I would have gotten those numbers a lot sooner, and never gotten the offer to have the surgery when I did. Someone else's flu saved my life. We got a lot of really weird and random coincidence stories in this video. I decided to invite my chem lab partner to lunch on the first day of college, just to be friendly and try to make more than one friend at school. We met up with only one other friend I'd made at school so far. He thought my lab partner was cute, invited himself to hang out with her, and then fell in love with her roommate instead. He ended up married to the roommate. They've been together for 22 years and have 2 children. Well, I'm pretty sure that most people met their spouse through some weird random connection or just bumped into them one day. It's one of those things where it's like, it's a 1 in a million chance, but it still happens to everybody. In high school, I took an intermediate biology course. I had never done biology before, but was good at science generally, so I thought the intermediate course would be a good fit. My science teacher of a couple years previous happened to walk into my class to talk to the biology teacher, and she spotted me in the class. She asked me what grade I had got the previous year. I told her, and she nodded and left. A minute later, she came back in and asked me to gather my belongings and leave the class. I was pretty sure I was in trouble for something I couldn't recall. She led me to another classroom and sat me down on an empty chair. Then she just started teaching. Turns out that she was running the advanced class that year and just decided to steal me as a student. I went on to take biology at undergrad level, and then a master's. I ended up doing a PhD in immunology and now work as an advisor for pharma companies. It gets better though. I decided I wanted to do my master's in London and met a girl on the way. We are now 10 years in and own a house together. All that because the teacher happened to look in my direction. Hey, if you're open to possibilities, you never know where life will take you. So a few years back, I lived in Nice, in the south of France, for a while. As a musician, I would make a bit of extra cash busking, and one day I figured I'd go and busk at the Promenade des Anglais by the sea. It's usually packed, and it's just a generally pleasant place to be. I set up, played a couple of songs, and was doing pretty well and making a decent amount of money. Then suddenly, not 1, but 2 of my guitar strings snapped. I was massively gutted and decided to cut my losses early. I stormed off home by the station in a bit of a sulk at having to restring my guitar, and cutting short what was essentially one of my most productive days of busking since moving there. Literally 1 hour later, my phone starts to blow up with the family and friends freaking out and asking if I was at the promenade. It was Bastille Day 2016. The truck drove into the same crowd I was playing to, killing 86 people. Including my at-the-time girlfriend's uncle. I had 2 other friends who were amongst the 458 injured. I moved home the next month because it was too much, and haven't been back since. It's hard to explain. Sometimes I think I was super lucky. Sometimes I just kind of cry and wonder why I was lucky and others weren't. It's surreal, and despite what people think, it's truly a horrible feeling. Yeah, I know there were a lot of stories like this related to 9/11 too. There were a lot of people that they slept in that day, and then they just happened to miss work. I watched Who Wants to Be a Millionaire and got so annoyed at the candidates not knowing a simple question about Katy Perry that I applied, got in, got to play, won a lot of money, booked a holiday to a dream destination with that money, met my husband there. We now have a 1-year-old son. I'm actually just a bit surprised from this story that the money that people win on game shows, they actually get to keep it and use it, and that it's not just all taken away by the government. I had to renew the sticker on my license plate a couple of years ago and really didn't feel like sitting in the waiting room by myself forever. So I told my mom I'd take her out to dinner after if she came with me. The guy working at the counter turned out to be my mom's long-lost biological brother. If she hadn't come with me, I would have never known. Not sure how you would recognize somebody like that, but okay. I made a last-minute decision to go to a friend's divorce party and met my wife. A divorce party? I've been to plenty of weddings. I've never heard of a divorce party. But I mean, I'm sure it makes sense for some situations. My desire for pizza set off a chain reaction that destroyed my family. One day, got home from school and really wanted pizza. Family was poor, so spontaneous food trips weren't always in the cards. Really worked my pouty face to my mom and begged to go to the local pizza place for dinner. She said all right. While chilling there, I saw my uncle walk by, and I was like, "What the? Uncle, is that you?" Now you might say, well, he wanted pizza, what's the big deal? Well, he lives several states away, so to arbitrarily be in town and not tell anyone was strange. Turns out he was having an affair with his sister-in-law, my aunt on the other side of the family. She was basically a money-grubbing whore, and the family protested. one thing led to another and everyone hates each other now, and now we haven't had contact in like 20 years. I just wanted some pizza. I kind of wonder if people like this would just prefer to stay ignorant about situations like that. The older I get, the more I am constantly cognizant of the vast cascade of seemingly insignificant decisions and actions that led me to where I am. For example, a decision 25 years ago to change a refrigerator light bulb before going out resulted in my being at the wrong time and place so as to get mugged, which resulted in my decision to move out of the city I was living in, which resulted in my meeting my wife, and from there to having all my kids and the whole shebang. I would have had a different whole shebang had I not changed the light bulb that afternoon, but the path to the present leads through that and 1,000 other similarly trivial decisions. See, the problem I have with some of these stories is that, because like I said, a lot of things seem like they're a 1 in a million chance, but it's really just because you had a million different outcomes and all of those are a 1 in a million chance. So, as crazy as one path might seem, I mean, you had to take one path, so it's almost always going to seem like a weird coincidence. I was going to a carpool with my aunt to a family gathering. At the last minute, I decided to go by myself so I could leave early if I wanted. It was a ways out of town and I didn't want to be stuck there. On the way there, she drove off the road and into a ditch. She was okay, but the passenger side of her car was totally smashed in. Well, hey, maybe she was like, hey, I got the whole car to myself, I can be as reckless as I want. The other day, I was driving home from work. Traffic was light, and I was behind a car with a number plate that started KFD. I decided to duck through KFC drive-thru for chippies with extra salt as a little treat to myself. They took forever to bring them out, and by the time they finally did, traffic had slowed to a complete halt. I need to get over a bridge that's normally 6 lanes, which has now been reduced to 1. Turns out it's due to a massive collision involving several cars. When I finally get to the point where I'm driving past, I notice the number plate on one of the cars. That same KFD number plate. If I hadn't stopped to get the hot chips, I'm fairly sure I'd have been in a major collision. Well, this just sounds like something out of Final Destination. Just go watch Final Destination 2. And realize that you're probably not as safe as you think right now. Well, I'm surprisingly cutting this video short because I had saved about 30 stories, but they just kept being the same thing over and over again. And I didn't feel like reading the same one so much. Most of these have really come down to just like, oh, I just happened to meet somebody one day and that person became my best friend or my wife. Or one day I decided to try a new thing, and then I eventually made a career out of that one thing one day. But it's really just made me think, though, that as wild and random as some things may seem, like I said, you're going to end up taking one path or another, so while every different possible outcome are a 1 in a million chance, you gotta pick one of them, so anything's going to be a 1 in a million chance. Anyways, I'm not sure if I'll make one more video before I go on a long vacation for all of next week. But that's all for today.